Hello everyone. Have you ever heard of the story called The Ant and the Grasshopper? Well, in this story there was a grasshopper who was well known for dancing, singing, and playing his fiddle to his heart's content. Now on one summer day, the grasshopper stumbled across a group of ants. And these ants were working pretty hard. They were carrying huge lumps of grain on their back and storing up a lot of food for the winter. Now the grasshopper noticed that he was getting a bit hungry and stopped to ask one of the ants for a bite to eat. But the ant refused. Unfortunately for the grasshopper, he spent most of his summer fooling around. Now some might say that the ant was a little bit harsh, but others, however, might say that the grasshopper lacked discipline. But what do we mean by discipline? In today's speech, I will discuss some of the main definitions of the word discipline, along with some examples and antonyms and synonyms. Next, I will discuss the etymology and word origin, and finally, I will take you through the final description, which highlights the essential features of this concept. So when we think of discipline, we can think of discipline in the sense of governing one's behavior. This can be done through punishment, correction, or even training. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, it is defined as to punish or penalize for the sake of enforcing obedience and perfecting moral character. When we think of this, we can think of a parent disciplining their child, getting put on a timeout after you've done something wrong, getting your electronic devices taken away, or even a spanking. Also, the Oxford English Dictionary defines discipline as instruction or teaching intended to mold the mind and character and instill a sense of properly orderly conduct and action. When I think of discipline in this sense, I think of a sergeant training his soldiers in the military. I even think of my parents when they constituted a chore chart for me and my siblings, and they intended for us to gain responsibility and good work ethic. Now, we can also think of discipline as it relates to the order that arises from that training and instruction. According to dictionary.com, it is defined as a way to bring to a state of order and obedience by training and control. When I think of this, I think of self-control. Do you have the discipline it takes to leave that cupcake alone when you're dieting? Or even shopping. Do you have the discipline it takes to not go into your favorite store and buy everything you see on the shelves? That one's a tough one. Some synonyms of this include self-control and restraint, and some antonyms include negligence, disorder, and chaos. Also, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, another main definition of the word discipline is a branch of learning or knowledge, a field of study or expertise, a subject. And some synonyms of this include a domain, a subject, an area. And when I think of this, I think of myself. I'm a student at York College studying for a degree in the discipline of biology. And you might be studying for your own discipline. Disciplines can be both artistic or academic. Now for the history and etymology, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary and etymonline.com, in the 13th century, discipline primarily referred to punishment and chastisement of a religious nature. And in Latin, it was associated with pupil, student, and follower. What's interesting is that the word disciple is quite similar to discipline, and a disciple is a follower of Jesus Christ in the Bible. Now in the 14th century, the word discipline applied to a system of rules and regulation, and then also began to apply to being a branch of instruction or knowledge. Soon in the 15th century, the word discipline began to apply to military training or following orders and adhering to rules or instructions. Now for the final description. What do we mean by discipline? Well, it is a sense of order and control in or over something, over one's behavior, over one's actions, over oneself, over a field of study, over an activity. It involves knowledge, not just gaining knowledge, but utilizing that knowledge. And it implies adherence to a particular set of standards in different areas of life. Now I want to wrap up my speech by bringing you back to that misfortune the grasshopper had to face due to his lack of discipline. Now, his ending wasn't too great, but I want to leave you guys with some ways on how you can improve your own self-discipline. 1, you can set small goals for yourself. Tackle those ones first and then move on to your bigger goals. Also, you can practice prioritizing, leaving your heftier tasks at the top and trying not to procrastinate with them. Also, removing temptations. And finally, you can get an accountability partner. There's nothing like having a friend or someone there to cheer you on and keep you focused. Thank you for listening.